Hi, it's Liz. And today I'm going to talk about how difficult it is to answer the question, are you okay? I don't like this question. I recognize that I still ask it to people, so I'm trying to work on that. But it's hard, right? There's a bunch of reasons for this, especially if, there's all kinds of reasons it can be especially difficult. But I think for starters, it's hard because it's difficult to know what the social expectation is around that question. You know, and it depends on your relationship with the person who's asking it, but it can be ambiguous. You might not really know if they care, right? like, like if they even want an honest answer. Like, it can be a question that sort of suggests that, you know, maybe even that you're behaving or emoting in a way that's like inappropriate. So they're telling you like, "Are you okay? Like, get it together," you know. Um, but even if somebody's really asking, it's very difficult to know what they mean by that. Um, and sometimes the social expectation is that you're going to answer in a way that makes them feel comfortable. That's the point of the interaction is you're making them uncomfortable by existing in some way, and you're supposed to make them feel more comfortable by telling them, yes, everything's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. You don't have anything to feel guilty about. You don't have anything to feel uncomfortable about because I'm okay. Which is a trap I definitely go right into because a lot of people probably would not guess this about me because my online persona, both like on YouTube and on my personal social media, I'm very like out there, like talking about stuff in my life. Like, I definitely am not someone who's easily embarrassed. I'm fine talking about difficult things. But but in a intimate personal scenario like that, I'm very conscious of like taking up space or or making people uncomfortable, dominating the room with my emotions because that's definitely something I used to do when I was younger without realizing it. And when, this was brought to my attention, I think I sort of overcorrected. So now I'm really hyper conscious of it. And, it's hard too because I have a lot of little chronic problems. Um, uh, so it's not like it's not like I'm like on my deathbed all the time, or it's not like I am constantly in a crisis. But there are a variety of reasons why most days are hard for me. Um, and it's not necessarily visible. Like I can actually put on a pretty good show of having a good time and being personable. Like I can have fun and still be having a hard time. um, you know, but I think what other people see is still they see somebody who is basically okay but a complainer. And that's a really frustrating perception because the stuff that I talk about that I'm experiencing, first of all, I almost never talk about something that's difficult in my life while I'm experiencing it. Usually I wait till another time. Because for a lot of reasons, it makes me very uncomfortable. Sometimes I do it anyway if the situation is like I just really need support, but I'm not really comfortable. Yeah. But the the amount of stuff that I talk about versus the amount of stuff I'm like experiencing on a daily basis, I mean, is tiny. I express very, very, very little of it to even the closest people to me. Um, so it's so it's frustrating um to be seen that way because the the effort that I put into being a good sport and not making people uncomfortable is really, really, really unseen because for the same reason, because I'm doing it, it's not seen, you know, because I do it well enough that people think, oh, she's basically fine, you know. So why is she complaining by mentioning X, Y, and Z difficulty sometimes? Um, yeah. So when somebody asks me if I'm okay, I mean, first of all, I mean, okay, there's an issue of baseline as well here that I think applies to a lot of different. There are a lot of different reasons why your everyday might be really challenging and more challenging than other people's. And life is hard. I get it that like everybody has a hard time in certain ways, but it's not all equal. Like some of us have more day-to-day challenges than others. There are certain ways in which I'm very, very lucky and I'm very, very privileged and my life is very, very cush. And there are other things that uh, I still can't get around with all of the privilege and luck that I have. So, but there's lots of reasons why people's sort of baseline experience might be really difficult. So when somebody asks you if you're okay, like I think most of us start thinking about if we are going to answer honestly, we start thinking about like, oh, what does okay mean in terms of our baseline? That's what we're thinking. And so if somebody who's like not, I don't want to say has it easy because I don't know if anyone really has it easy at the end of the day, but people who don't have a lot of like intense challenges in their lives um might have very different definitions of okay. Like I think for some people being sad is not being okay, right? Or being really, really tired is not okay or something. Um but for somebody who has sort of like a chronic experience of adversity, like to me if somebody asks if I'm okay, the first thing I think of is like, well, okay, am I like about to die? Like do I need to be rushed to the hospital for some reason? Like is this an emergency? No? Okay, then I'm okay. I guess I'm okay. Um, there's definitely some like a little bit of gray area there. But usually that gray area for me where I'd readily say like no, I'm not okay is still when I'm like okay, I might need to go to the hospital. Like I'm not sure. I definitely need help, you know. But I think those of us who again like persistently have these kinds of experiences, I mean, we usually can't just get help all the time. And if we're going to define okay as being, functional and psychologically healthy and, that kind of thing, then we're never going to be okay and we're always going to need help. And that doesn't really work. We can't always, we can't put that kind of burden on other people, right? Um, we have to just deal with not being okay a lot of the time and try to make it work somehow. And and that's one reason why it can be hard to accept help is because we are working so hard to try not to be a burden that it kind of feels like somebody's ruining it if they come in and help you. Like, it's kind of a weird thing, weird way to put it. I realized after it came out of my mouth, but that is kind of how it feels sometimes. You know, I there are people that exist who like do want to be really manipulative and garner pity from people. Um, I mean, sure. I don't know that that's common though, honestly. I don't think that is very common. I don't think, and I have a friend who's a therapist who like basically, well, I don't want to from what she's told me, the gist that I've gotten is that most people put a lot of energy into minimizing their problems. Because it's a way to deal with it. It's a lot easier to deal with things if you minimize them, and if you kind of normalize them and you say, okay, this is okay. If you lower the bar for okay, then it's a lot easier to be okay, and that's certainly what I've done in my life in so many ways. um, it's not. I don't think it's the more common thing to be looking for attention and to be wanting pity. I know for myself. Um, I don't have a huge pride thing with pity. I don't think. Like, it's not that it hurts. Because I know for some people it hurts their pride to be helped and to feel pitied. But for me, it's just like, I don't know. I find it super unhelpful and it makes me uncomfortable. I, it's like a lot of unhelpful attention, and I kind of feel like it's more other people, like, again, wanting to feel good about themselves, and so they're giving me all this weird attention that doesn't help me so that they can feel better about themselves. It's not even like really about love or compassion. It's just weird performance, and I don't appreciate it. I don't get into it. That's definitely definitely not a motivator for why I do things. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling, I guess. It's just I really wish that things could be more straightforward. I think it makes sense to me that we should be able to be honest with the people that we're intimate with emotionally about like how we're doing. But it's a lot more challenging than it sounds. Even for me, even for somebody who's very who really lacks embarrassment, who can tend to be very forthright, it's really hard for me to to do that. And I think it's because there's a lot of baggage culturally that we have around acknowledging weakness or complaining or because I just don't believe like I mean I think complaining is a thing, but I guess the way I think of complaining is I guess somebody who's looking for pity, right? Somebody who's being manipulative and or somebody who is just relentlessly um sort of mean spirited, even sort of negative. um and I don't know, I feel like it's an emotionally manipulative thing to like kind of behavior, and I think it's totally different from having honest conversations about how you're doing. It's just some of us are often not doing well, and that's not our fault. Like, that doesn't make us complainers if we're being honest, right? I mean, I do think there's something to not burdening people too, but I don't think that's how we should approach our intimate relationships. I think that we should be able to. I would think, I want to know what's going on with the people that I care about. That's important to me. And so it makes sense to me that it should be important to the people that care about me how I really feel. Right? Like, if you don't care about, if you don't want to hear the truth of how somebody is doing, then how are you even emotionally intimate with them? Like, how are you close to them? If that's just a burden for you, right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Um, and if you basically believe that, like, somebody expressing that kind of thing to you is just complaining, then again, like, that's not a good relationship. You don't have trust there. If you really think that about somebody, then how can you be close to them? But I don't know. Overall, I don't have like an answer or something. It's just some observations. And I think a lot of this stuff is connected to why it's just sort of difficult to exist as somebody who is sort of chronically struggling with some kind of adversity, to be really general. Again, it's hard to talk about. I think it's easy to talk about, if you break a bunch of bones, that kind of thing. Something very, like, tangible and concrete, and a single thing that's easy to explain. This thing happened to me. People can go, oh no, like, people make the connection, but for things that are more chronic or even systemic, it seems like a lot of times it's just harder to see. And then a lot of this weird baggage about complaining and stuff comes into play. It becomes a reason to dismiss people and to blame people's experiences on their sort of character flaw of complaining too much or whatever. So anyway, I'm done rambling about this. I'll talk to you later.